Hello, everyone. This is Bishop Michael McGovern of the Diocese of Belleville. Glad to be with you today on the Bishop McGovern podcast. And with me is Clara Firtos from the Office of Formation, the Diocese of Belleville. And Clara is one of our young adults, very active with young adult ministry here in the diocese. Clara, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you, Bishop McGovern?
Doing very well, very well. So Clara had a great idea for a podcast about bringing some questions from our Catholic young adults in Belleville Diocese to share with me. And so we thought we would have a podcast or two based on those questions. So Clara, maybe tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Yes. Hi, guys. My name is Clara Basola.
That's right. You're married now, right?
I am married now. I recently just got married on May 6th of this year, which is the feast day of St. John the Beloved. Mm-hmm. I work for the Office of Faith Formation and Youth Ministry, and I also work with a lot of young adults in our young adult community. And in fact, that's why we are here today. I had the idea of asking our young adult community some questions. And just one simple question: if you could ask your bishop a question, what would it be? And we got a lot of good results here. We got a lot of good questions here to ask our bishop today. Mm-hmm. So I am hoping we can jump into that.
Terrific.
I want to start out with Rachel, 28 years old. She asked, how did your family react to you being named Bishop of Belleville?
Well, I was the pastor of a parish in northern Illinois near the Wisconsin border in Lake County. Been a priest of the Archdiocese of Chicago for many years. So I was notified by the papal nuncio that the Holy Father was naming me Bishop of Belleville, and then had to set a date for the announcement. And because this is such a confidential matter until it's announced by the Holy See. Yeah. You really can't tell your family. I asked about this and I was instructed you can share this with your family the night before the announcement is made. It was April 3rd was the announcement, so I called my family the night of April 2nd, and I was so grateful it wasn't April 1st because they might not have believed me.
Yeah.
But I talked to my brothers and sisters and said, this is what's happening. And they were very supportive. I don't think they expressed a lot of surprise, but they did ask about, or they really reassured me that, no matter where I live, we would always, be able to support each other and see each other. And that's very true, that they were pleased to hear the news, but also it was right when COVID happened. That announcement was right after the shutdown. Very kindly, some of my siblings were able to come for the ordination July 22nd, 2020. But we've done a really good job of writing one another, calling each other, sometimes visiting. If I go north, I try and stop and see at least one or two of my siblings each trip. So it's been good. But they were very, very pleased and praying for me. And, my parents are deceased. So my siblings really we're very close, I think, especially since our parents died. So I'm glad that I have their support.
Do you have a favorite reaction out of a sibling that you can remember?
No, I would just say, I think just that I don't know if anybody in my family had been to Belleville. I mean, they've been to maybe parts of Southern Illinois. Mm-hmm. But I think it was going to be something new for all of us.
Yeah, so. Great. Sam, 25 years old, asked, why do bishops carry a shepherd's crook?
So the crozier, that's the tall staff that a bishop normally carries in procession or holds it during the gospel while the gospel is proclaimed in church. So it's shaped like a shepherd's staff, and that's intentional, that the bishop is to imitate Jesus, teacher, priest, and shepherd, and that just as a shepherd leads his flock, the bishop is a pastor. That's what the Latin word pastor means, shepherd. So the bishop is leading and guiding and protecting the flock, and the crook is an instrument to help do that.
And then follow-up question, she was also wondering about the cap under the bishop's hat. Does it take from the style of the Jewish yakama?
Oh, the zucchetto, that's the Italian name for it. It's a skull cap. A bishop wears one that's violet or purple or scarlet. A cardinal wears one that's red. Yeah. And some of the Benedictine monks will wear a black skull cap. I imagine it comes from the sense of reverence in the presence of the holy, that one would kind of cover your head. And so the skull cap, I think, might be a holdover from that. I find, especially some practical things, when you think about churches that before there was central heat, it get mighty chilly in some of these churches, so having
Yeah.
something on your head would help retain warmth. But if you notice during Mass, the bishop, though, once he reaches the prayer over the gifts and finishes that prayer at Mass, then he removes the zucchetto, that when the Blessed Sacrament is on the altar exposed, you shouldn't wear a covering on your head. So you notice that the bishop takes it off and only returns it, puts it back on at the end of the communion rite, after the Blessed Sacrament's been reposed in the tabernacle.
Yeah, that's pretty neat. And you mentioned different colors for the hat as well. Does that signify anything? Is there?
So a monk, a Benedictine, for instance, might wear one that's black. A bishop would wear a scarlet colored zucchetto, and then a cardinal wears one that's red, that kind of orangish red that cardinals wear, and then the Holy Father, the Pope, obviously wears one that's white. So the colors just signify office, I think.
Yeah. Okay. How often are you at Cathedral celebrating Mass, and how often are you in other parishes celebrating Mass, which is a good...
Sure. No, that's an excellent question. So I celebrate Mass throughout the week in different places. The Cathedral of St. Peter in Belleville, the city of Belleville. As many of our listeners know, I live at the Cathedral Rectory. So I some days have the 6:45 daily Mass, which is often followed by confessions. And then Saturday evening or Sunday morning or Sunday evening, we at the Cathedral of St. Peter, we have Mass, Vigil Mass on Saturday night, then 2 Masses on Sunday morning, and then 1 on Sunday evening at 5. So I try and help out here. I think it is important for a bishop to be present in the cathedral. There are some bishops in even in the United States who would say the bishop should be at his cathedral every Sunday for at least 1 Mass. There are some bishops who believe that. Our difficulty would be the diocese is so large. I mean, the only way I could probably achieve that is if I come back every Sunday to say Mass at 5 p.m. In the cathedral, but on Sunday night. So I'm at the cathedral, I would say, on the Sundays or Saturday nights, probably a good 15 to 20 times per year. And then for the Holy Week, I'm here every night of Holy Week. Christmas, Easter, Palm Sunday, and then certain feast days, like today, the Assumption of Mary. I had 2 Masses at the cathedral. And then what about other parishes? I'd say I normally go out to a different parish every weekend, maybe Saturday evening, Sunday morning. Sometimes I'm able to have 2 Masses on Sunday in different places. But as you know, our diocese is made up of 28 counties in southern Illinois. So the driving distance between churches, and frankly, most of our parishes have Mass at pretty much the same time. Either 7:30, 8 o'clock would be a first Mass, and the second Mass, 10, 10:30, maybe 11. So I find I have been to, out of our 103 churches in the diocese, I've been to about 98 of them for something, either confirmation or a Sunday Mass or a funeral Mass. So I'm looking forward to, now that I started year 4, to finally getting to the last 5 churches I haven't been to yet. So I would have been at every parish church in the diocese, which is great.
That is awesome.
But no, I do try and be out and about in the diocese. And sometimes it's to substitute for a priest who's on vacation or ill. Sometimes it's deliberate. A parish is having an anniversary, 100 years, perhaps. So I just think it's important for the people all around to have a chance to pray with the bishop, to celebrate the Eucharist with the bishop, to meet the bishop. It was very tough my first year and a half here because of COVID. Because we're all wearing masks, and you sort of have to keep distance, social distance. So that was a bit of a challenge in starting out. But I think we're doing really well now.
You are actually, and I really like the fact that you do visit the other parishes, and that's important to you. So Ellen, 31 years old, asked you, what is a first year in priesthood lesson that you still carry on today in your pastoral life?
Okay, well, I would say you learn a lot of lessons in your first several years as a priest. You need some seasoning, and there's nothing like parish life to help you with that. I would say an important lesson was just simply slow down. Like, sometimes you're presented with situations that are very difficult or alarming in some ways, or it's an emergency, but don't get flustered. Just simply, someone comes to the door and says, my uncle's in the hospital, we need a priest to come now. Okay, just make sure you get the information that you need. Try as calmly as you can, to get to the car, to make sure you've got what you need for the anointing of the sick. And you may have to call someone to say if you have an appointment later that morning or afternoon, like just I might be late because I'm going to the hospital to see someone.
Yeah.
So I think it's just sort of learning how to, there's going to be many things that happen that were not planned. And when the unexpected opens up in front of you, try and be prudent and, don't, because often people are excited about something, and just sort of try and respond calmly. A good lesson I learned early on, this was from a doctor in the parish. He said, as a medical practitioner, he said he always leaves an hour free every day in his schedule so that he has room to cope with the unexpected. And I find that's absolutely great advice because I've tried that as a priest and as a bishop to leave some part of the day unscheduled so that if there's an urgent matter, there's some room to maneuver and to respond to a person. So that's, I think, a pretty good thing for our listeners to try and put in their own life too.
That's absolutely such great advice. It's even good for a diocesan officer to hear. Thank you, Bishop.
All right, so thank you, Clara. We had a good conversation.
We did.
I think we're going to do a second edition of our questions from young adults. So in the meantime, remember September the 10th, we have a young adult gathering at the Cathedral of St. Peter in Belleville. We have Mass at 5 p.m., our regular Sunday evening Mass at 5, followed by a reception for young adults ages 18 to 35 in the Undercroft of the Cathedral of St. Peter. Thank you. God bless you to all our listeners, and we'll talk again very, very soon.